I had my first child at 17, and my parents did not know about him until he was 2 days old. This is a continuation of our fear versus respect conversation. I'm going to be looking down a lot during this video because I took some notes and I feel like this subject is important and I don't want to miss anything. So please bear with me, but let's get into this conversation. And just to let you know, I'm not sharing this for shock. I'm not sharing this story for sympathy. I'm sharing it because it shaped how I think about fear, respect, and communication between parents and children. And like I say, fear and respect are two different things. And it's not to point fingers or blame anyone, but I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. And the reason why I say that is because we often say we want our kids to respect us, and that's a very valid point. We want our kids to respect us, and we want them also to feel respected. But sometimes we confuse fear with respect. Fear can look like obedience. Fear can look like silence. Fear can even look like good behavior. But fear doesn't mean safety, and silence does not mean trust. I want to be very clear about something too. This is not about blaming my parents. I have no doubt that my parents wanted the best for me. They were using the tools that they had. And when they found out about my son, they showed up completely. There was nothing I could do or anybody in this world could do to keep them away from that baby. So love was never an issue, but communication was. When I became a parent, I carried that lesson with me. However, it was not an immediate lesson because I found myself veering down that path at one point in time too. But I told my kids I didn't want them having sex early. I preferred that they wait. But I also told them, if you're going to do it anyway, let's have a conversation about it. And I made sure that I created that as a safe space, or created a safe space for them to be able to come to me and talk to me about it if they felt that is a path that they wanted to go down. Was it a free-for-all to just go out there and do what you want? Absolutely not. But let's be clear. What we say and what our children do can sometimes be different, and we don't want them doing certain things, but if they're going to do it, we want them to be safe. You know, those were uncomfortable conversations, but I chose prevention over punishment. I also told my kids, if you ever find yourself in an unsafe environment, like in a car with somebody you consider a friend or whatever, and they're doing drugs and drinking and stuff like that, I said, the first thing I want you to do is get yourself to safety. Even if you have to play like you're going to contribute to whatever is going on, like, hey, take me to the store. Let me buy some alcohol. Let me buy something to drink. And then when they pull over to allow you to go in the store to buy the alcohol, the cigarette, or whatever else, I said, that is your opportunity to get yourself out of that car and say, hey, you know what? Kick rocks. You guys go ahead on. And you call me. I might be tired. I might be a little bit grumpy. But guess what? I'm coming. Because the truth of the matter is, sometimes you don't know people outside of authority figures. People can present themselves one way in school or around their parents, but be totally different outside of that structure. The same holds true for adults. Sometimes we think people are one way just to realize that they're another way. So we shouldn't hold our children to a higher standard. Oh, you should choose better friends. Not to say they'll always make the correct decision the first time, but maybe they thought they did choose a good friend. Maybe they hadn't seen that side of that person who was supposed to quote unquote be their friend. It happens. It happens to us adults. So these are some things that I incorporated as a parent, as my children were growing up. And like I say, parenting evolves. What is normal in one generation isn't always the best in the next. And I think that is something as parents we have to accept. And, we can't always use the fallback excuse, well, my parents did it and this, and, it worked for me. You see how I am and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's fine. And as much as people don't want to admit it or acknowledge it, just because your parents did it, it doesn't make it right either. And again, over here, we're not creating a space of judgment, parent bashing, because I feel like our parents do the best that we can. Are there some parents out there that have made poor choices or just, are negligent? Of course. But for the most part, parents do the best that they can with the tools that they have. And we do the best that we can with the tools that we have. And there are times we could have made better choices, but it wasn't out of quote unquote negligence or just trying to be a bad parent. I would like to think that most people aren't out here trying to be bad parents. And so, as we know more, we do better. And let's be clear and honest. I know in my parents' days, mental health wasn't something that they were taught to address. It was like, you just, need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You need to get stronger. You need to let this go and all this kind of stuff. But we know more now about mental health, about development, about trauma, about communication. So we do better. That doesn't mean our parents failed. It means knowledge grew. And again, this space is not about blame or shame over here. This is a table, the table that I am trying to create. This space that I want to create is a space where kids can say, this is how this or that made me feel. It's a space where parents can say, that wasn't my intent. I am sorry, or I did not mean to make you feel that way. This is a space and a table where grandparents can reflect without being torn down. We are not bashing over here. We're learning, and we're learning together. So again, I say, fear isn't the same as respect, and respect doesn't have to come at the cost of safety or connection. So, if this resonates with you, I would like to personally welcome you here.